Are the Padres going to be any good at pitching in the 2025 season? Maybe. I don't know. Probably. We'll get to that in just a second. What's happening, everybody? I'm Christian Pedersen with Padres Digest. Welcome to the channel. This is your source for San Diego homegrown Padre takes. And if you are new, as I'm assuming most of you are to this channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button because we only have one mindset here. Our World Series is hashtag beat LA. You know we got to beat the Dodgers to get to the series, so it might as well be the number one thing that we focus on as a fan base, and that includes catching and beating Dodgers Digest in the number of subscribers. So like I said, make sure you smash that subscribe button so we can bring you great Padres content all year long. All right, the question at hand, are the Padres going to be any good at pitching in 2025? Yes. Are they going to be elite? It's unlikely. As of us recording this right now, Rory Sasaki, the Japanese phenom, has not selected a team. So it's not that he's not a Padre. It's not that he is a Padre. Like, we're just going to not discuss him in this video. You know that he would make any team better. So that goes needless to say that whatever analysis here, if we get him, it's this plus that, because there's going to always be some shifting pieces. No Major League Baseball team has ever just brought in their 5 starters, played them all games all season long, had no injuries or substitutions or need to rest. Like, that doesn't happen. So pitching is an ever-changing amoeba of sorts. The Padres are going to be good, though. They return a fair amount of last season's team. The one thing we got to actually address, though, is that this big man right here, Joe Musgrove, will not be back for most of the season. So when we're talking about what are the Padres going to look like in 2025 pitching-wise, just know that Musgrove is a part of the overall plan, but he's mostly just going to be a feel-good arm at the end of the year. Great story. And look, if he can come out and be an actual boost at the end, if we're in a tight playoff race, that's great. But realistically, we're not going to have him for most of the season. So what is it going to look like for the Padres? And, well, for me, the number one thing, and this might be crazy because he didn't throw a no-hitter last year, and that guy is also on the list to talk about, but the number one thing to look at is Michael King for the Padres. This man, I think, is a absolute, I'm not going to say bona fide like superstar, but as far as the Padres' necessities for pitching in 2025, this guy is an ace in the making, in the waiting, if not kind of already an ace that's here. And what we saw in the playoffs last year, I think we can get for 20-plus starts last year. He had amazing movement on all of his pitches. He was really, he was absolutely bringing it in a lot of different categories. And you need the movement, you need the velocity, you need the change of pitches. You need a couple of different things to be a successful Major League Baseball player or Major League Baseball pitcher. Michael King had that on a lot of his starts last year. And, is his arm ready to hold multiple sustained seasons of being a starter? Does he need to be a bullpen guy like he was in New York? I think he's ready to be a starter. I say absolute ride or die on what Michael King can bring the Padres and the Friar Faithful fans in 2025. Next up, let's talk about Dylan Cease, because he is the one that you might have been saying is the bona fide star. Throws a no-hitter for the Padres last season. Not a ton of home runs, 200-plus strikeouts. This man is a bona fide video game numbers type of superstar in the major leagues right now. He has been discussed as potentially some trade bait for a couple of different scenarios in the Padres this offseason. I don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. It would have to either be a really dumb move by A.J. Preller to ship Cease off for something else that's not a huge upgrade, and I don't see any pitching on the market that's available for that. Or B, it would have to be something where we're going to get like a zillion and a half prospects back. But to me, that would indicate a rebuild, and I don't feel like the Padres are anywhere close to being able to rebuild with the offense and the other pieces. Like, all of the tinkering we're talking about here is to get them from good to elite. This Padre team is going to be very, very good again. One of the players who's coming back, and I'm always excited by this guy because he seems to be the ageless wonder, is Yu Darvish. He was away from the season for a fair amount last year with personal issues, so he didn't have a full, he only pitched 81 innings. That's not 100-something. Like, that is not a workhorse of a season. So hopefully Darvish, he is 38. He's closing in on 40, and Obviously, Father Time ends up catching up with all of us eventually, but for now, I think that Darvish can have really, really good stuff for another season or two. I mean, eventually, yes, you're going to lose some edge, you're going to lose some velocity, but he has always shown a depth of pitches, the absolute command of the strike zone, and everything that you need, like Greg Maddoxy, as the velocity declines, the stuff makes up for it, and you can keep pitching and pitching and pitching for a little bit longer. So, but also, that's why I'm talking about Darvish third. I no longer think he is the guy who the Padres absolutely need to sink their teeth into and hold on to. Is like, he's our ace. He's going to be the guy that gets it. I think that he can take that role on as the number 2, number 3 guy, depending on, the actual rotation. But in spirit, he can be the anchor. He can be the veteran dude who knows how to handle the big moments and can be lined up for, I'll take on your ace, he'll take on our, like, I'm fine with that. But in reality, in terms of actual like production needed, he can be a little bit lower down in the totem pole, which is great. That, though, is the end kind of the what I would determine to be, bona fide, like, major league dudes. Past that, we get into the reason why it's not an elite pitching team this year. The bullpen will be a separate video. Like I said, subscribe to us so that video comes right to you when it's out. But look, we past that, we're talking about Matt Waldron. And I don't think that he is Tim Wakefield. I don't think that he's R.A. Dickey. I love the prospect of keeping a knuckleballer in because everybody's power. And in the end, you need to occasionally switch that up. But, let's pull back here to Waldron's numbers. Sub 500 on the wins, losses. The strikeouts are well below someone like Cease, who has that absolute out pitch. A knuckleball, it just isn't it isn't a blow him away. It isn't a take a bunch of hacks and get a bunch of outs, inconsistent. It's a hittable pitch, and he has good days and he has bad days. But if we're talking about him 4th in the rotation, I'm fine with that. That's not the end of the world. If at some point you just need a guy to serviceably get out there and make 20, 25 starts and keep just pushing the season forward, you got to hope that the offense will click. Like, if the Padres are in a bunch of one-run games, one of two things is happening. Either our bullpen is really clutch and is manning up and we're winning a lot of close games, or our offense has completely sputtered. And I don't see a scenario where if the offense completely falls apart, the Padres are going to be any good. I just don't see a likely scenario where the offense falls apart, other than the end of last season. But salt over the shoulder. We're done with that. That's in the rearview mirror. This is going to be a Padre team that absolutely smacks the ball around this year. So that's 4 guys. Where do the Padres go past that? I don't think that the Padres need to go past that. Not that they're going to be the Rays or the A's or somewhere where they're reinventing baseball, only going with 4 starters, mix of this guy here, and then 5's a revolving door. Like, we don't need to be Buck Showalter making 236 roster moves, but I think that you can do one of 2 or 3 different things. One is you can lock in somebody who, this guy right here, Adrian Morejon, could be an interesting selection. If I had to nominate a person right now, like I said at the top of the video, we're doing this without Sasaki because we just need to talk about who the Padres actually have. If I had to nominate one guy right now to be the person who I want the Padres to ride with for their number 5 starter, it would be Morejon. I think that it's cool that he's a lefty. He has had some time in all the different roles with the Padres. When we brought him up, he was 24 or 22 or something. Like he was young. And he's been up and down for a couple years, and he's had some moments where we needed a bunch out of him. We've had some moments where we need a little bit out of him. And all of that is to say that we've had him somewhat grow up and mature, and he's been up and down and up and down. And I think that all of that builds up maybe the mental side of baseball players a little bit more, so that you can wind up with the physical and the mental match to have this be a guy who can serviceably do the 5 role. Like, he can be number 5, no problem. Like I said, he's a lefty, so it's a little bit something different. It's something that you need in a pitching rotation. So, if he goes out there for 18 to 20 starts, has a 4 ERA, has a 3.8 ERA, I don't think that's the worst thing. Maybe you guys are going to hop in the comment section and be like, no, that'd be awful, Like, that's why I'm saying, again, this is not going to be an elite team, but they're not going to be bad. Because if the questions are the 4 and the 5 guy, and Waldron's just more of a question of, is he good enough? Not, is he going to hold down that spot? So the question really just is the 5th. And past that, there's Randy Vasquez, and there's Brian Hoeing, and there's some other guys who made some spot starts for the Padres down the stretch last year. And there's always going to be a guy or two that can come out of the bullpen or come out of the minor leagues. And we don't need to go into all of those names because spring training hasn't even happened. And we can, if you really need a juicy deep dive on the 40-man type roster, we can go that direction. But just know that past Morejon, it starts to dive off, in my opinion, in terms of people who you can point to quantifiable MLB service time and be like, look, for that stretch or that stretch, if we get that mixed with a little bit of everything in between, it's going to be fine. All the other guys, you can have your favorites. You can have the ones that are great prospects. I'm fine with Morejon plus a revolving door of people to come up and eat innings and extend and get, good little opportunities here, combining to call the Padres pitching pretty good. Maybe a 7.8 out of 10. Maybe even an 8 out of 10 if we can get another pretty decent, if not good, year out of Darvish. Because like I said, that 1, 2, 3 is a little bit of something different at each one of those starts, so we can match up with teams' lineups correctly, and then the 4 and 5 become a lefty and a knuckleballer. Rock and roll. You'll show up to most fights with that. Granted, it's not a bunch of ex-Cy Young Award winning Blake Snell. Fine. Leave all that in the past. The Padres got what the Padres got this season. And I think that, like I said, this is going to be a pretty good start to it. That being said, though, we want to hear from you guys, so make sure you drop a comment with who you think should be in the Padres starting rotation. Make sure you subscribe to Padres Digest, and we'll talk to all you Friar faithful soon.